Wednesday, we'll have the singing of our national anthem, today led by the Honourable Member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons command, cause embrace et porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix, ton histoire est une épopée.
Order. À l'ordre.
Order, please.
To inform the House that a communication has been received, which is as follows. Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to inform you that His Excellency the Right Honourable David Johnston, Governor-General of Canada, and Her Excellency Sharon Johnston will arrive at the Peace Tower at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 16th day of October, 2013. When it has been indicated that all is in readiness, their Excellencies will proceed to the Chamber of the Senate to formally open the second session of the 41st Parliament of Canada. Yours sincerely, Stephen Wallace. J'ai l'honneur d'informer la Chambre.
I have the honor to inform the House that a communication has been received, which is as follows. Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to inform you that His Excellency the Right Honourable David Johnston, Governor-General of Canada, and Her Excellency Sharon Johnston will arrive at the Peace Tower at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 16th day of October 2013. When it has been indicated that all is in readiness, their Excellencies will proceed to the Chamber of the Senate to formally open the second session of the 41st Parliament of Canada. Yours sincerely, Stephen Wallace.
It is my duty to inform the House that vacancies have occurred in the representation, namely, Mr. Vic Taves, member for the electoral district of Provencher, by resignation effective July 9th, 2013. Mr. Bob Ray, member for the electoral district of Toronto Centre, by resignation effective July 31st, 2013. And Mr. Mervyn Tweed, member for the electoral district of Brandon-Souris, by resignation effective August 31st, 2013. Conformément à l'alinéa.
Pursuant to subsection 25(1)b of the Parliament of Canada Act, I addressed a warrant to the Chief Electoral Officer for the issue of writs for the election of members to fill these vacancies.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, a message has been received from His Excellency.
His Excellency the Governor General.
Admit the messenger.
Mr. Speaker, it is the pleasure of His Excellency the Governor General that this honorable chamber attend him immediately in the chamber of the Senate. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, it is the pleasure of His Excellency the Governor General that this Honorable House attend him immediately in the chamber of the Senate.
Honorable Senate.
Honorable Senators, members of the House of Commons, ladies and gentlemen, let us begin this day together by honoring in silent reflection those whose lives were tragically taken at Lac Mégantic.
I come before you today as one proud Canadian among a vast nation of these, sincere in congratulations on this opening day of the second session of the 41st Parliament of Canada. I bear the happy wishes and deep affection of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, whose family has this year been blessed with the birth of Prince George. Parliamentarians, you gather today with the high confidence and higher expectation of Canadians. Remember that our nation has embraced a unique set of indelible qualities that must guide your deliberations in this Parliament. Nous sommes inclusifs.
Consider this. We are inclusive. We are 35 million people gathered from every part of the world. We welcome the contribution of all those who inhabit this land, from the first of us to the latest among us. This year, we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Royal Proclamation. This extraordinary document is part of the legal foundation of our country. It recognized the rights of Aboriginal people in Canada for the first time and established the basis of their relations with the Crown.
We are honorable. People of peace, we use our military power sparingly, but when we do so with full conviction, gathering our forces as men and women who believe that the freedoms we enjoy cannot be taken from us. This clarity focuses our might in terrible times. And wherever and whenever we unleash that might, we raise our grateful voices and our prayers to honor those who have stood in harm's way for us. Consider this: we are selfless. Our survival has been sustained by humility and acceptance of our mutual interdependence. Giving lies in our very nature, certain in our hearts that none but the gift passed from an open hand will multiply as those we help better themselves, those they love, and at length the country they call home. Nous sommes avertis.
Consider this. We are smart. We deplore self-satisfaction, yearning rather for self-improvement. We love learning and cherish our right to it. We are united, prosperous, and free precisely because we ensure that Canadians have opportunities to learn, excel, advance, and thus to contribute.
We are caring. Our abiding concern for the common good of our neighbors in each community makes us responsive. We do not abandon our fellows to scrape by in times of distress or natural disaster. Inspired by our common bond, we come swiftly and resiliently to the aid of those in need. Today, as we contemplate our 150th anniversary, the eyes and ears and expectations of Canadians turn toward this Parliament in trust that those who stand here in their place will relentlessly advance and uphold ideas that are inclusive, honorable, selfless, smart, and caring at every turn without fail. Let us not disappoint. And with that spirit and direction, let us turn now to the present. Il y a 2 ans.
2.5 years ago, Canadians gave our government a strong mandate. A mandate to protect jobs and our economy, a mandate to keep taxes low, a mandate to make our families and communities safe. Despite ongoing uncertainty and instability from beyond our shores, our government remains focused on these priorities. We made tough choices, the right choices for Canadian families. The results are clear. More Canadians have good jobs than ever before. Families are paying lower taxes, and our financial house is in order.
Looks to recovery, a rare opportunity now lies before us as Canadians. The opportunity to build on our ingenuity, our immense natural wealth, and our values and stability. The opportunity to secure the future for our generation and for our children's generation. It is the opportunity to lead the world in security and prosperity, not for the sake of doing so, but so that Canadian families who work hard, pay their taxes, and play by the rules get ahead. This is Canada's moment. Together, we will seize it. And as we do, we draw inspiration from our founders, leaders of courage and audacity. Nearly 150 years ago, they looked beyond a narrow self-interest. They faced down incredible challenges, geographic, military, and economic. They were undaunted. They dared to seize the moment that history offered. Pioneers, then few in number, reached across a vast continent. They forged an independent country where none would have otherwise existed. In the words of Thomas D'Arcy McGee, I see in the not remote distance one great nationality bound, like the shield of Achilles, by the blue rim of ocean. I see it quartered into many communities, each disposing of its internal affairs, but all bound together by free institutions. With hard work, sacrifice, and common sense, those Canadian men and women built this country. In so doing, they founded a constitutional democracy among the most enduring history has known. As we look to the 150th anniversary of our Confederation, we are reminded that ours is a rich inheritance, a legacy of freedom, the birthright of all humanity, and the courage to uphold it, the rule of law, and the institutions to protect it, respect for human dignity and diversity.
Guided by these values, we Canadians, Aboriginal, French, English, people from all corners of the globe, strive together for our families and a brighter future. We are on the cusp of a moment that is uniquely Canada's. Just as our founders dared, so too must we. We must seize this moment to secure prosperity for Canadians now and the generations to follow. Creating jobs and securing economic growth is and will remain our government's top priority.
World economy, our government's decisive and pragmatic leadership navigated Canada through the worst global recession in a generation. Even before the recession hit, our government was prepared. It maintained budget surpluses and paid down billions from the national debt. It lowered taxes for Canadians and job-creating businesses. During the downturn, our government's economic action plan took the steps necessary to safeguard our economy. It protected Canadian jobs. It invested in infrastructure and productivity, and it controlled spending while maintaining growing transfers that support health care, education, and retirement. In spite of continuing risks from beyond our shores, our government is leading the world by example. It secured the commitment of the world's largest economies to put in place credible plans to achieve financial sustainability, and it set clear targets to bring our own deficit down. Canada now leads the G7 in job creation, in income growth, and in keeping debt levels low. Canada is now among only a few countries in the world with the AAA credit rating.
By taking decisive action, Canada has stayed strong where others have faltered. But we cannot be complacent. The global economy still faces significant risks from factors that we do not control. We must stay the course, and sound management remains our government's guide. Canadian families know they cannot prosper by continually spending more than they earn. Our government is no different. Last year's deficit was less than forecast. Our government will balance the budget by 2015. And it will go further. Our government will enshrine in law its successful and prudent approach. Our government will introduce balanced budget legislation. It will require balanced budgets during normal economic times and concrete timelines for returning to balance in the event of an economic crisis. Our government has already set an ambitious debt-to-GDP target of 25% by 2021. And it will reduce that ratio to pre-recession levels by 2017.
Government manages debt, so too it is tackling spending. Every day, Canadian families make tough choices about how to spend their hard-earned money. Guided by this example, our government will continue reducing the size and cost of government to ensure that taxpayers get value for money. Notre gouvernement.
Our government will freeze the overall federal operating budget, which will continue to restrain hiring. Our government will make further targeted reductions to internal government spending. Our government will reform the way the federal system manages spending.
Government will review federal assets. When it is in the best interest of Canadians, they will be sold. Our government recognizes the value of a lean, competent, and committed public service. Public service pay and benefit levels will be reasonable, responsible, and in the public interest. Our government has already reformed federal government pension plans to ensure that parliamentarians and public servants pay their fair share. It will reform disability and sick day entitlements and work with employees to get them back to work as soon as possible. Our government will amend the Public Service Labour Relations Act to ensure that the public service is affordable, modern, and high-performing. Our government will increase performance accountability in the public service to provide better service to Canadians at a reduced cost and to better recognize dedicated and effective employees. And we will make government more efficient and responsive to Canadians by, for example, moving from 63 different email systems to one.
Canadians want good, well-paying, stable jobs, and our country needs Canadians working. Canadians know that businesses create jobs. So our government lowered their tax burden and cut red tape. Canada now has the best job creation record in the G7. $1 million net new jobs since the depths of the recession. These are overwhelmingly full-time, well-paying private sector jobs. But our government is not stopping here.
one of the best educated workforces in the world. But there are too many people without jobs and too many jobs without people. To address this job creation gap, our government is implementing the Canada Job Grant. It will increase employment by ensuring Canadians are able to fill job vacancies. Our government will take further steps to see that those traditionally underrepresented in the workforce, including people with disabilities, youth, and Aboriginal Canadians, find the job training they need.
Our government will work with provinces and territories on a new generation of labor market agreements in order to more effectively connect Canadians with disabilities to employers and in-demand jobs.
Youth unemployment rate is already much lower than many advanced countries, but it remains too high. Our government will redirect federal investments in youth employment to provide real-life experience in high-demand fields. Our government recognizes the tremendous potential of Canada's First Nations, Métis, and Inuit populations to strengthen the growing Canadian economy. It will continue working with First Nations to develop stronger, more effective, and more accountable on-reserve education systems. In a dynamic economy, workers must be able to use their skills wherever in Canada they choose to work. Provincial borders should not be employment barriers. Our government will work with provinces and territories to improve credential recognition and enable the free movement of skilled workers. Our government will ensure that Canadians are aware of the opportunities offered by the skilled trades and will assist apprentices with the cost of their training. Our government will complete reforms to the temporary foreign worker program to ensure that Canadians always have the first chance at available jobs. And our government will continue to create the conditions for new and better jobs for Canadians across all sectors of our economy.
From the days of the Coureurs des Bois and the Hudson's Bay Company, Canada has been a trading nation. Today, with 1 in 5 Canadian jobs dependent on exports, our prosperity hinges on opening new markets for Canadian goods, services, and investment. This is why our government launched the most ambitious trade agenda in Canadian history. In less than 7 years, Canada has concluded new free trade agreements with 9 countries, and our government is negotiating further agreements involving more than 60 others.
Negotiations on a comprehensive economic and trade agreement with the European Union. This agreement has the potential to create 80,000 new Canadian jobs. Our government is also committed to expanding trade with emerging markets in Asia and the Americas through our engagement in the Trans-Pacific Partnership and active negotiations with Japan, South Korea, and India. To further promote the success of Canadian exporters, our government will launch a comprehensive new plan to assist Canadian businesses as they expand abroad. The United States remains Canada's biggest and best customer. Our government will continue implementing the Beyond the Border and regulatory cooperation action plans to speed the flow of people, goods, and services between our two countries. Here at home, our government will continue to work to remove barriers to trade between provinces and territories that cost jobs, inconvenience Canadians, and defy common sense. For instance, our government will work with British Columbia and Ontario and other willing jurisdictions to set up a cooperative regulatory system for securities and capital markets.
And our government will amend the Importation of Intoxicating Liquors Act to allow Canadians to take beer and spirits across provincial boundaries for their own use.
These days, our economy has been built on our abundant natural resources. Directly and indirectly, the natural resource sector employs 1.8 million Canadians, many in skilled, high-paying jobs. Resource development generates $30 billion annually in revenue that supports healthcare, education, and programs Canadians cherish. Canada's energy reserves are vast, sufficient to fuel our growing economy and supply international customers for generations to come. However, for Canadians to benefit fully from our natural resources, we must be able to sell them. A lack of key infrastructure threatens to strand these resources at a time when global demand for Canadian energy is soaring. Nous devons saisir le...
We must seize this moment. The window for gaining access to new markets will not remain open indefinitely. Now more than ever, our future prosperity depends on responsible development of these resources. At the same time, our government has taken action to ensure that Canada's resources do not fall under foreign government control.
Ensure that our natural resource sectors remain open to foreign investment when it is market-oriented and in the long-term interests of Canadians. Canada's natural wealth is our natural inheritance, and our government will ensure that the jobs and opportunities it brings are available to all Canadians. In particular, Canada's Aboriginal peoples must have every opportunity to benefit.
Our government believes, and Canadians expect, that resource development must respect the environment. Our government's plan for responsible resource development includes measures to protect against spills and other risks to the environment and local communities. Our government will enshrine the polluter pay principle system into law, set higher safety standards for companies operating offshore, as well as those operating pipelines, and increase the required liability insurance.
Introduce the Safeguarding Canada's Seas and Skies Act to protect our oceans and coasts, and act on advice from the expert panel on tanker safety to create a world-class tanker safety system in Canada. Canada was built on the work of farmers, fishermen, and foresters. They work hard to feed our families and sustain rural communities. Our government will continue to protect and promote Canada's traditional industries. Our government has given farmers marketing freedom and is helping them adapt and innovate. It will continue to develop new markets around the world for Canadian products while supporting supply management. Our government has supported fishermen by ensuring proper management of fish stocks and by opening new markets worldwide. It will continue to be open to solutions supported by fishermen that strengthen the economic competitiveness of this traditional pillar of our coastal economy. La foresterie.
Forestry remains essential to Canada's rural economy, supporting almost 200,000 jobs across the country. Our government secured and extended the softwood lumber agreement with the United States, and our government will continue to support innovation and pursue new export opportunities for Canadian companies.
Investment creates jobs, supports trade, drives productivity, and contributes in a fundamental way to growth and long-term prosperity. For Canadians, balancing the pressures of work and daily life, investment in our roads, bridges, and transportation networks means less congestion, shorter commutes, and more time with family. That's why in Economic Action Plan 2013, our government launched the new Building Canada Plan, the largest long-term federal commitment to infrastructure in Canadian history. Au cours de la...
Over the next decade, our government will invest $70 billion in federal, provincial, territorial, and community infrastructure projects such as building subways in the Greater Toronto Area, replacing Montreal's Champlain Bridge, building a new Windsor-Detroit crossing, and constructing Vancouver's Evergreen Line will create jobs across our country.
In partnership with industry to ensure that all major military purchases create high-quality jobs for Canadian workers. Our government's national shipbuilding plan will create 15,000 well-paying, skilled jobs over 30 years for Canadians and produce much-needed new ships for the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Coast Guard. Canada's automotive and aerospace industries are also key parts of our economy. That's why our government renewed the Automotive Innovation Fund and improved the Strategic Aerospace and Defence Initiative. Both have a proven track record of generating results for Canadians, jobs, prosperity, and increased foreign investment. To foster Canadian productivity and global competitiveness, our government provided $1.4 billion in tax relief to manufacturing companies investing in modern machinery and equipment. And our new Advanced Manufacturing Fund will support new products and production methods. Our government's leadership in science and technology helps Canadian business remain competitive while creating high-paying jobs. Since 2006, our government has invested more than $9 billion to support science, technology, and innovative companies operating at the outer limits of knowledge. Canada now leads G7 countries in post-secondary research investment. Transformation of the National Research Council, doubling the Industrial Research Assistance Program, and the new Venture Capital Action Plan are all helping to promote greater commercialization of research and development.
Building on this strong foundation, our government will release an updated science, technology, and innovation strategy.
Targeted investments in science and innovation chains from laboratory to market in order to position Canada as a leader in the knowledge economy. And our government will continue to promote Canada as a world-class destination for international students. Canada's spectacular beauty attracts visitors from across the globe to every region of our country. These visitors create jobs and sustain local economies. Our government will continue to work with industry partners to promote Canada as a top destination for tourism. Our government has reduced the red tape burden on small and medium-sized businesses. There are now fewer regulations, and the cost of red tape has been reduced by nearly $20 million annually. Notre gouvernement.
Our government will introduce legislation to enshrine the 1-for-1 rule in law. For every new regulation added, one must be removed. The Canada Revenue Agency will cut additional red tape and help businesses navigate the tax system. And following our government's return to balanced budgets, it will look at ways to provide further tax relief to job-creating small businesses.
For their money. And we know families are better placed to make spending decisions than governments. And that is why our government has lowered taxes year after year for families, for businesses, for each and every Canadian. For example, our government cut the GST from 7 to 6 to 5%, created tax-free savings accounts which now benefit more than 8 million Canadians, established a $5,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers, reduced the lowest personal income tax rate and increased the basic personal exemption, introduced income splitting for seniors, brought in arts and fitness tax credits for our children, and froze employment insurance premiums for the next 3 years, meaning that employees and employers will save $660 million next year alone. Dans l'ensemble, le FAD...
Overall, the federal tax burden is at its lowest level in half a century, As a result of our government's low tax plan, the average Canadian family now pays $3,200 less in taxes every year. Our government has a proven record of cutting taxes for Canadian families. We have delivered on our promises. And once the budget is balanced, our government is committed to greater tax relief for Canadian families.
Hard to make ends meet and every dollar counts. While companies will look out for their bottom line, our government is looking out for everyday Canadians. When Canadians make decisions about how to spend their money, they must be assured of a voice, a choice, and fair treatment. For example, although Canadians are among the most digitally connected in the world, we also pay some of the highest wireless rates in the developed world. As families know, especially families with teenagers, the monthly bills add up. Our government has already taken action to achieve greater competition. Canadians know that competition is good for everyone. Competition lowers prices and keeps businesses from becoming complacent. As a result, wireless rates have fallen nearly 20% since 2008. But there is much more work to do. Our government will take steps to reduce roaming costs on networks within Canada. Our government believes Canadian families should be able to choose the combination of television channels they want. It will require channels to be unbundled while protecting Canadian jobs. Our government will continue enhancing high-speed broadband networks for rural Canadians. En outre, notre gouvernement
And our government will take additional action to protect Canadian consumers. Canadians are tired of hidden fees. They deserve to know the real cost of paying by debit or credit card. And they should not be charged more in Canada for identical goods that sell for less in the United States. Our government will end pay-to-pay policies so customers won't pay extra to receive paper bills. Expand no-cost basic banking services. Work with the provinces and territories to crack down on predatory payday lenders. Empower consumers by requiring disclosure of the cost of different payment methods, and take further action to end geographic price discrimination against Canadians.
Believes that the justice system exists to protect law-abiding citizens in our communities. For too long, the voices of victims have been silenced while the system coddled criminals. Our government has worked to re-establish Canada as a country where those who break the law are punished for their actions, where penalties match the severity of crimes committed, where the rights of victims come before the rights of criminals. Our government will introduce a Victims' Bill of Rights to restore victims to their rightful place at the heart of our justice system. Our government will focus on protecting the most vulnerable of all victims, our children. Recent tragic deaths, including those of Amanda Todd, Rita Parsons, and Todd Loyuk, have shocked Canadians. Our government will introduce legislation giving police and prosecutors new tools to effectively address cyberbullying that involves criminal invasion of privacy, intimidation, and personal abuse. This legislation would create a new criminal offense prohibiting the non-consensual distribution of intimate images. Les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Canadians are rightfully alarmed when violent offenders found not criminally responsible for their actions are released into our communities. Our government will reintroduce legislation to ensure that public safety comes first.
Protect our children. Child predators should never be let off with only a single sentence for multiple crimes against children. Canadians demand that those who prey on our children pay the full price for every devastated life. Our government will end sentencing discounts for child sex offenders. It is also unacceptable that dangerous and violent offenders are released into our communities before serving their full sentences. Our government will end the practice of automatic early release for serious repeat offenders. Mais pour ce qui est des...
But for the worst of all criminals, even this is not enough. Canadians do not understand why the most dangerous criminals would ever be released from prison. For them, our government will change the law so that a life sentence means a sentence for life.
Proportionally the victims of violent crime. Our government will renew its efforts to address the issue of missing and murdered Aboriginal women. Canadians also know that prostitution victimizes women and threatens the safety of our communities. Our government will vigorously defend the constitutionality of Canada's prostitution laws. Finally, our government recognizes the daily risk taken by police officers and their service animals. It will bring forward Quanto's law in honor of them. Families are the cornerstone of our society. Families raise our children and build our communities. As our families succeed, Canada succeeds. Notre gouvernement...
Our government understands the daily pressures ordinary Canadian families face, and it is working to strengthen families, not replace them. That's why our government took money from bureaucrats and lobbyists and gave it to the real experts on child care, Mom and Dad. Our government's universal child care benefit provides $1,200 a year to parents to help with the costs of raising kids.
Support hardworking Canadian families in other ways. Every day, parents make choices about what goes on the dinner table. Our Safe Food for Canadians Act was a significant milestone in strengthening Canada's world-class food safety system. Our government will work with the provinces and territories to further strengthen food inspection regimes. Our government will consult with Canadian parents to improve the way nutritional information is presented on food labels. Our government is also committed to ensuring that drug labels are written in plain language and that the potential side effects of medication are accurately indicated. To help identify potentially dangerous drugs and ensure the quick recall of unsafe drugs, it will introduce new patient safety legislation. This will include new powers to require reporting of adverse drug reactions. Our government will also build on our caregiver tax credit by working with employers to better accommodate Canadians caring for older family members. Help seniors quickly access information about programs and services they need and use in their communities. Make adoption more affordable for Canadian families. Renew investments in health research to tackle the growing onset of dementia and related illnesses. Prevent employers and insurance companies from discriminating against Canadians on the basis of genetic testing. Collaborate with injury prevention organizations to reduce the injury rate in Canada, and work with the provinces and territories and with the private and not-for-profit sectors to encourage young Canadians to be more physically active. Les familles canadiennes.
Canadian families expect safe and healthy communities in which to raise their children. They want to address poverty and other persistent social problems, access safe and reliable infrastructure, and enjoy a clean and healthy environment. Our government will reintroduce and pass the Respect for Communities Act to ensure that parents have a say before drug injection sites open in their communities. Expand its national anti-drug strategy to address the growing problem of prescription drug abuse.
We'll close loopholes that allow for the feeding of addiction under the guise of treatment. act on the opportunities presented by social finance and the successful national call for concepts for social finance, build on the successful Housing First approach and its renewed homelessness partnering strategy to help house vulnerable Canadians, protect Canada's rich natural heritage by unveiling a new national conservation plan to further increase protected areas, focusing on stronger marine and coastal conservation, complete by 2015 its work to protect wilderness lands in Natsichol, Bathurst Island, and the Mealy Mountains, work with communities, nonprofit organizations, and businesses to create and protect more green space in our urban and suburban areas, take further action to improve air quality nationwide, and build on its record as the first government to achieve an absolute reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by working with provinces to reduce emissions from the oil and gas sectors while ensuring Canadian companies remain competitive. Avant la Confédération.
Since before Confederation, Canada has relied on railways for the movement of goods and passengers. It's no different today. New economic opportunities still require rail to link Canadian goods to waiting markets. Our government has already amended the Railway Safety Act to further enhance the safety of rail transportation. As efforts to clean up and rebuild Lac Mégantic demonstrate, railway companies must be able to bear the cost of their actions. Our government will require shippers and railways to carry additional insurance so they are held accountable. And we will take targeted action to increase the safety of the transportation of dangerous goods.
And ordinary Canadians who came together to confront the recent disasters in Lac Mégantic and Alberta showed courage under the most dire circumstances. Le gouvernement a toujours fait son soutien.
The government has always stood with communities in times of crisis and recovery. Our government will continue to support the citizens of Lac Mégantic and affected communities in Alberta as they move forward. Building community resilience can mitigate the worst impacts of natural disasters and other emergencies before they happen. Our government will work with provinces and territories to develop a national disaster mitigation program. This program will be focused on reducing the impact of natural disasters.
The protection of national sovereignty and the security of citizens. And Canadians know you cannot earn respect by projecting weakness. Serious countries have serious capabilities. Look at the paintings that adorn this room, scenes of the Great War. They remind us of this and of the profound sacrifices made by our men and women in uniform. These heroes are the pride of our country and the backbone of our history. After a decade of darkness, our government has been living up to our promise to give the Canadian military the tools it needs to get the job done. Soldier for soldier, sailor for sailor, airman for airman, the Canadian Armed Forces are once again the best in the world. No longer does Canada have to hitch a ride with our allies. Our serving men and women can now carry out their vital missions. The Royal Canadian Air Force is flying new heavy-lift C-17 and C-130J transport aircraft and operating Chinook helicopters. New tanks, artillery, and other equipment have proven their worth in combat. Canadian workers at Canadian shipyards will build new ships for the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Coast Guards, and our government will complete our plan to replace Canada's fleet of fighter jets. Building on these successes, our government will renew our Canada First defence strategy. Now and in the future, Canada's armed forces will defend Canada and protect our borders. maintain sovereignty over our northern lands and waters, fight alongside our allies to defend our interests, and respond to emergencies within Canada and around the world. To be effective, our military must have more teeth and less tail. Our government will put frontline capability before back-office bureaucracy, respond to emerging threats to our sovereignty and economy posed by terrorism and cyber attacks while ensuring Canadians' fundamental privacy rights are protected. Notre gouvernement a fait des...
Our government has increased support through its enhanced Veterans Charter. Our veterans have stood up for us. We will stand by them. Our government has made unprecedented investments to support our veterans, including increased support through its enhanced Veterans Charter, dignified funerals for our injured veterans, reduced red tape so veterans can access the benefits they need, and invested almost $5 billion additional dollars in benefits and programs.
Who are an essential link between the armed forces and Canadian communities, and assist employers of reservists who are required to deploy on missions vital to the security of all Canadians. Alors que notre gouvernement prend ces mesures, il n'oublie pas les promesses faites.
As our government takes these steps, it will always keep faith with those who have defended Canada with pride. Our veterans have stood up for us, and now we will stand by them.
Help returning veterans reestablish themselves. We will reach out to homeless veterans and help give them the support they need, and build on our successful Helmets to Hard Hats program to place veterans in good jobs. We are a northern country. We are a northern people. Canada's greatest dreams are to be found in our highest latitudes. They are the dreams of a north confident and prosperous, the true north strong and free. Dans le nord, notre...
Our government is securing our northern sovereignty, promoting prosperity for northerners, protecting our Arctic environmental heritage, and giving the people of the North a greater say in their own affairs.
By opening the Canadian Armed Forces Arctic Training Centre, expanding the Canadian Rangers, our eyes and ears in the North, creating the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, mapping Canada's Arctic seabed to assert our sovereignty, investing in healthcare, education, and affordable housing for Northerners, and concluding a historic devolution agreement with the Northwest Territories and negotiating one with Nunavut. But the eyes of the world increasingly look enviously to our north. Our government will not rest. Our government will fulfill Prime Minister Diefenbaker's historic vision by completing the Dempster Highway to the Arctic Ocean, linking Canada from sea to sea to sea. Notre gouvernement a créé la station de recherche.
Our government has established the Canadian High Arctic Research Station. This world-class science and technology research facility will open in time for the 150th anniversary of Confederation.
Government's new Arctic offshore patrol ships, Canada's first deep-water Arctic port at Nanisivik, will be operational. Our government recognizes that the future prosperity of the North requires responsible development of its abundant natural resources. Northerners must benefit from this treasure. Our government will work alongside Inuit, First Nations, territorial governments, and industry to ensure that Northerners are well trained to take their full place in this new economy. Our government will also continue to defend the seal hunt, an important source of food and income for coastal and Inuit communities. The story of the North is the story of Canada. In order to tell that story for Canada's 150th year, our government will continue efforts to solve one of the most enduring mysteries of the past. We will work with renewed determination and an expanded team of partners to discover the fate of Sir John Franklin's lost Arctic expedition. Canada stands for what is right and good in the world. This is the true character of Canadians, honourable in our dealings, faithful to our commitments, loyal to our friends, confident partners, courageous warriors, and compassionate neighbours. Canada does not go along to get along. Our government defends Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, the lone outpost of freedom and democracy in a dangerous region. And our government stands opposed to those regimes that threaten their neighbors, slaughter their citizens, and imperil freedom. These regimes must ultimately be judged not by their words, but by their actions. Canada seeks a world where freedom, including freedom of religion, the rule of law, democracy, and human dignity are respected. Our government will continue to promote these fundamental values around the world, including through the newly established Office of Religious Freedom. Les Canadiens
and Canadians know that freedom and prosperity march together. Our government will help the world's neediest by partnering with the private sector to create economic growth in the developing world. Tax dollars spent on foreign aid must achieve real results. Our government's international aid will continue to be focused, effective, and accountable.
Also know that free and healthy societies require the full participation of women. Canada has taken a leadership role in addressing the health challenges facing women, infants, and children in the world's poorest country. These efforts are saving millions of lives. In particular, Canada recognizes the courageous and inspiring example set by Malala Yousafzai in risking her life promoting education for young women. She faced down evil and oppression and now speaks boldly for those who are silenced. Recognize her heroism, our government will, on behalf of all Canadians, bestow honorary citizenship on this remarkable young woman. Sadly, millions of women and girls continue to be brutalized by violence, including through the inhumane practice of early and forced marriage. This barbarism is unacceptable to Canadians. Our government will take steps to ensure that it does not occur on our soil. Ici au Canada, des personnes...
It is the reality of our country that Canadians of very different origins live and work side by side together. New Canadians work hard to learn our languages, our values, and our traditions, and in turn are welcomed as equal members of the Canadian family. Our government inherited a broken immigration system and has worked hard to fix it. Our government has cut the backlog of applications by almost half, eliminated the backlog for economic immigrants, cut the right of landing fee in half, lowered wait times for skilled workers coming to Canada, increased protection for genuine refugees, reduced the number of fraudulent asylum claimants, and deported more than 100,000 illegal immigrants, and remained on track to meet our goal of reuniting families faster.
Still more our government can and will do. We know that a job is the best path to social integration. Our government will introduce a new model to select immigrants based on the skills Canadian employers need. Our government will reform the Immigrant Investor Program so that these investors make a real contribution in exchange for the security and pathway to citizenship that Canada provides. Canadians understand that citizenship should not be simply a passport of convenience. Citizenship is a pledge of mutual responsibility and a shared commitment to values rooted in our history. Our government will not hesitate to uphold the fundamental rights of all Canadians wherever they are threatened. To strengthen and protect the value of Canadian citizenship, our government will introduce the first comprehensive reforms to the Citizenship Act in more than a generation. As we look confidently to the future, we draw great strength from our past. Beginning with our Aboriginal peoples, Canada's story is one of risk, sacrifice, and rugged determination. From the founding of New France to the fight for Canada in the War of 1812, from the visionary achievement of Confederation to our victory at Vimy Ridge, Canadians have repeatedly triumphed over long odds to forge a great country united and free. C'est une histoire dont nous nous souvenons.
It is a story we recall with wonder and recount with pride, a story of how different provinces founded a federation in which our distinct strengths advance our unity. A federation in which Canada's two national languages position us uniquely in the world, where Francophones thrive and celebrate a unique culture in solidarity with fellow Canadians. Our government has recognized the Québécois as a nation within a united Canada. It will work with the government of Quebec to ensure our common prosperity, and our government will continue to respect the division of jurisdiction at the heart of the Constitution adopted at Confederation. Canada's Confederation is worth celebrating. As we approach our historic 150th anniversary in 2017, our government will join with Canadians in honoring this momentous milestone by marking the 150th anniversaries of the Charlottetown and Quebec conferences, celebrating the 200th birthdays of two of our greatest fathers of Confederation, Sir George-Étienne Cartier and Sir John A. Macdonald.
Will join with Canadians in honoring this momentous milestone by commemorating the centennial of the First World War and the 75th anniversary of the Second World War and the enormous sacrifices made by Canadians and our allies in both. Rededicating the National War Memorial to the memory of all men and women who fought for our country. Building a memorial to the victims of communism to remember the millions who suffered under tyranny. Marking the end of Canada's mission in Afghanistan by honoring the service of our men and women in uniform, including those who made the ultimate sacrifice combating the spread of terrorism. Honoring the proud history of our Canadian Armed Forces by restoring military traditions. Strengthening the cadet and junior ranger programs. Establishing the Canadian Museum of History to share the story of Canada with pride. Supporting the Pan and Parapan American Games and the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2015, showcasing Canadians' proud, competitive, and united spirit under the maple leaf, and working with Canadians to support community projects, local celebrations, and other initiatives to commemorate this historic occasion. The coming anniversary of Confederation is also a time to mark the contribution of Canada's First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities who have had a defining role in shaping our country. Our government will continue our dialogue on the treaty relationship and comprehensive land claims, and our government will continue to work in partnership with Aboriginal peoples to create healthy, prosperous, self-sufficient communities. The road to 2017 is a fitting time to strengthen our institutions and democratic processes. The government continues to believe the status quo in the Senate of Canada is unacceptable. The Senate must be reformed, or as with its provincial counterparts, vanish. The government will proceed upon receiving the advice of the Supreme Court. And the government will propose changes to Canada's election laws to uphold the integrity of our voting system. Legislation will be introduced in time for implementation prior to the next federal election. Honourable members of the Senate and members of the Commons, as the dawn of our Confederation approached in the 1860s, our founding Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, said of Canada's future that he saw a great nation, great in thought, great in action, great in hope, and great in position. His vision has come to pass. Aujourd'hui.
Today, Canada is a model for the world. Admired for our freedom, respected for our principles, envied for our openness, compassion, and peaceful pluralism.
The 150th anniversary of our great land, we look to the future. A future we will face true to our character, the character of a determined and enterprising people. Canadians whose shops and small businesses spur the growth of our towns and cities, who work factory shifts and drive taxi cabs to help their families get ahead, who take the same pride in raising their children as they do in being citizens of the best country on earth. These are the quiet, unsung Canadians who are building our country. It is from them that we draw the inspiration to face an uncertain and unstable world. It is for them that we will seize the moment before us. Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds required to carry out the services and expenditures authorized by Parliament.
Honourable Senators and members of the House of Commons, you are the holders of a profound trust reposed in you by Canadians.
In all things, and may divine providence guide you in your deliberations.
Order. Order. While we're waiting, I thought I might just read the statement concerning private members' business after the prorogation. I would like to make a statement concerning private members' business. Comme les honorables députés le savent,
As honourable members know, our standing orders provide for the continuance of private members' business from session to session within a parliament.
in practical terms, this means that notwithstanding prorogation, the list for the consideration of private members' business established at the beginning of the 41st Parliament shall continue for the duration of this Parliament. Par conséquent, au terme
As such, pursuant to Standing Order 86.1, all items of private members' business originating in the House of Commons that were listed on the order paper at the conclusion of the previous session are automatically reinstated to the order paper and shall be deemed to have been considered and approved at all stages completed at the time of the prorogation.
keep the same number as in the first session of the 41st Parliament. More specifically, all bills and motions standing on the list of items outside the order of precedence shall continue to stand. Bills that had met the notice requirement and were printed in the order paper but had not yet been introduced will be republished on the order paper under the heading Introduction of Private Members' Bills. Bills that had not yet been published on the order paper need to be recertified by the Office of the Law Clerk and Parliamentary Council and be resubmitted for publication on the notice paper. Bien entendu,
Of course, all items in the order of precedence remain on the order of precedence or, as the case may be, are referred to the appropriate committee or sent to the Senate.
there were 3 private members' bills originating in the House of Commons adopted at second reading and referred to committee. Therefore, pursuant to Standing Order 86.1, Bill C-458, an act respecting a National Charities Week and to amend the Income Tax Act, charitable and other gifts, is deemed referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. The projet de loi C.
Bill C-478, an act to amend the Criminal Code, increasing parole ineligibility, is deemed referred to the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
Bill C-49, an act to amend the Criminal Code and the Corrections and Conditional Release Act, restrictions on offenders, is deemed referred to the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Aussi, conformément à l'article
Accordingly, pursuant to Standing Order 97.1, committees will be required to report on each of these reinstated private members' bills within 60 sitting days of this statement.
9 private members' bills originating in the House of Commons had been read the third time and passed. Therefore, pursuant to Standing Order 86.1, the following bills are deemed adopted at all stages and passed by the House. C-217, an act to amend the Criminal Code. C-266, an act to establish Pope John Paul II Day. And C-279, an act to amend the Canadian Human Rights Act and the Criminal Code. C-290.
C-290, an act to amend the Criminal Code. Sports betting. C-314, an act respecting the awareness of screening among women with dense breast tissue. And C-350, an act to amend the Corrections and Conditional Release Act, accountability of offenders.
C-377, an act to amend the Income Tax Act, requirements for labor organizations. C-394, an act to amend the Criminal Code and the National Defense Act, criminal organization recruitment. And C-444, an act to amend the Criminal Code, impersonating peace officer or public officer. Le message sera donc.
Accordingly, a message will be sent to the Senate to inform it that this House has adopted these 9 bills. Consideration of private members' business will start on Thursday, October 17, 2013.
Order of precedence are deemed referred to committee. There are 4 bills standing in the names of members recently appointed as parliamentary secretaries who, by virtue of their office, are not eligible to propose items during the consideration of private members' business. Bill C-511, an act to amend the Federal Provincial Fiscal Arrangements Act, period of residence, and Bill C-517, an act to amend the Criminal Code, trafficking in persons, were awaiting debate at second reading in the order of precedence at the time of prorogation. Les projets de loi C.
Bill C-458, an act respecting a National Charities Week and to amend the Income Tax Act, charitable gifts and other gifts. And Bill C-478, an act to amend the Criminal Code, increasing parole ineligibility, were in committee at the time of prorogation and, as stated earlier, have been returned there.
This is in keeping with the principle expressed at pages 550, 551, and 1125 of the House of Commons Procedure and Practice, second edition, which provides that bills remain on the order of precedence since they are in the possession of the House, and only the House can take a further decision on them. These items are therefore without eligible sponsors, but remain in the possession of the House or its committees. If no action is taken at the appropriate time, these items would eventually be dropped from the order paper pursuant to Standing Order 94-2C. Les honorables députés trouvent.
Honorable members will find at their desks a detailed explanatory note about private members' business. I trust these measures will assist the House in understanding how private members' business will be conducted in this session. The table officers are available to answer any questions members may have.
Members for their attention. I wish to inform the House that, in accordance with the representation made by the government pursuant to Standing Order 55-1, I have caused to be published a special order paper giving notice of government bills and motions. Je propose donc sur le bureau le document pertinent.
I now lay upon the table the relevant document.
The Honourable Government House Leader is rising on point of order.
Thank you. Opposition Leader, just right now in the House. I apologize for the interruption, yet I'm compelled by circumstances to rise on the point of order related to the special order paper that you just tabled in this place, and specifically the Government Business Motion number 2. This highly unusual and complex motion puts 13 separate questions before the House, all of which are capable of standing on their own, and all of which should be debated and voted upon separately. The omnibus motion is very lengthy, but I'll mention just a few items to give you a sense of the broad sweeping nature of what's before us, and I will offer you some argument of the rules that guide Parliament, along with the convictions that Conservatives themselves had when they sat in the opposition. The first part of the motion will allow the government to reinstate any and every bill that it had passed the previous session to the last stage, completed before the Prime Minister prorogued Parliament, essentially attempting to deprorogue and return to the legislative agenda that his prorogation cancelled. A second aspect, the government then links the remaking of the Special Committee on Indigenous Women that had been studying the critical issue of missing and murdered Aboriginal women in Canada. It also attempts to give direction to the Procedure and House Affairs Committee to begin its vital work on making the members' expense disclosure regime more open, mandatory and consistent. And lastly, it directs the House to not sit on November 1st in order to accommodate the Conservative caucus in their upcoming policy convention. The sponsorship of this motion, the Government House Leader, is fully aware that the official opposition supports the last three aspects of this motion. To flip a now infamous quote on its head, the government simply won't take yes for an answer. And the Government House Leader is also fully aware that we are strongly opposed to the first clause that would allow for an across-the-board reinstatement of all government bills, a legislative carte blanche to attempt to undo the natural consequences of their own decision to shut down Parliament. We find it particularly offensive, Mr. Speaker, for this government to use a solemn, non-partisan study on missing and murdered Aboriginal women as a playing card in their attempt to try to force the opposition to grant the power to reinstate their old legislative agenda. In addition to be ethically worrisome, Mr. Speaker, the maneuver also runs counter to the rules of this House. Perhaps the government isn't swayed yet by my arguments, so allow me to use some of their own in support of my case. The Prime Minister will remember his House Leader, Carol Skelton, who argued in 2002, when the Liberals tried this exact same tactic. She said, and I quote, "If this motion is allowed to stand as it is, members will be forced to vote for the reinstatement of bills to ensure pre-budget consultations and to save the good work of the special committee. The motion is wrong procedurally and wrong ethically." End of quote.
Given that the last edition of the procedure book of HoC and Bryan had not yet been published, I am today quoting page 478 of Marleau and Montpetit. When a complex motion is tabled in the House, for example, a motion containing two parts or more, each one being able to represent a distinct motion, the Speaker has the power to change it in order to facilitate the decision-making procedure in the House. A member who is opposed to such a motion containing two distinct proposals or propositions can ask that the motion be divided and that each motion be put make the subject of a debate and put to a vote. And in 2002, Ms. Skelton used a case dating back to June 15, 1964, when the president, or the speaker rather, concluded that he had to conclude that the motion before the House did indeed have two distinct proposals, and since we are strongly opposed to those being studied together, my duty is to divide them.
We even heard from the current member of Vegaro, Wainwright, who said, "I would suggest that this is an opportunity for the government to demonstrate that it is serious about trying to make the House democratic by dividing this motion so that members of the House can vote on each motion separately. The current motion does not allow that. The current members for Caribou, Prince George, and Central Nova, our new Minister of Justice, also made submissions in opposition to this kind of motion. 11 years later, they seem to have learned nothing from the failures of the previous government, and I would ask you that, Mr. Speaker, review the precedents on this, review the motion placed on the order paper that you've just tabled, and come back to the House as quickly as you are able to divide this motion for both debate and votes. C'est donc à vous, Monsieur le Président.
So it's up to you, Mr. Speaker, to rule on this kind of tactic. This runs completely counter to the rules, precedents, and to the very spirit of the respectful negotiations that enable this institution to run smoothly.
The way, perhaps I can help speed up the passage of Clause M of Government Business Motion Number 2, the one I have referred to. This is the motion that changes the schedule of the House to allow the Conservative caucus to get to their party convention in Calgary. This is a courtesy that is often extended, as you know, Mr. Speaker, to all major parties in their House when their conventions conflict with the sitting schedule of the House. Par conséquent,
Consequently, I call for unanimous consent for the following motion, which is taken word for word from the government's motion on the order paper. That on Thursday, October 31st, 2013, the sitting hours and the order of business for the House be those of a Friday, on condition that notices can be tabled by 6 p.m. at the latest, and when the House rises, it remains adjourned until Monday, November 4th, 2013, that recorded divisions on a motion be held on October 31st, 2013, or deferred to that date, and that they be deemed deferred, or deferred again, as the case may be, to the ordinary hour of adjournment on November 4th.
Jam together all of their previous legislative agenda to something as important as the study and the pursuit of justice for missing and murdered Aboriginal women, we find offensive. The government has the opportunity to decouple these statements, allow for a free and fair vote that is in line with our rules and the ethics of this place, and I put that motion for you now, Mr. Speaker.
Does the Honourable Opposition House Leader have the unanimous consent of the House to propose this motion? There's no consent.
Fascinating.
I see the Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay rising. If he'll just be patient, we'll get through 2 orders of the day, and then I have received a notice from him. Is the Honourable Government House Leader now rising on a point?
Mr. Speaker, with regard to the point of order raised by the Opposition House Leader, I find it highly unusual that he raised it at this time. I don't know why the effort to do so before we even started entertaining the throne speech. There'll be ample opportunity to speak to this later. However, in brief, I would say this. The motion that has been put before the House or proposed on the order paper as Government Motion Number 2 represents a balanced approach to restore the business of the House to exactly what it was back in June. That included the ability to return government bills to the entertainment of the House, but also to restore the mandate of every committee, whether that was a mandate that was established by the opposition or proposed by the opposition or otherwise. So, in fact, everybody's business is preserved. It is a balanced and fair approach so that nobody on any side of this House, including the independents, who have an interest, are prejudiced by the fact that we had prorogued. That is the simple purpose of the motion. It is balanced, it is fair, and what's more, it is entirely consistent with the past practice of this House. I expect I will return to this more fully when we are closer to actually debating that motion rather than today.
I look forward to those further interventions on the point. Mr. Harper, seconded by Mr. Van Loan, moves for leave to introduce a bill respecting the administration of oaths of office. Cette motion est répétée.
The motion is deemed adopted.
Par
Mr. Harper, seconded by Mr. Van Loan, moves that the bill be now read a first time. This motion is deemed adopted.
Première lecture de ce projet de loi.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you stole my thunder, but let me move the motion anyway. I move for leave to introduce a bill respecting the administration of the oaths of office and to seek the unanimous consent of the House to have the bill printed.
Does the Right Honourable Prime Minister have the unanimous consent of the House to have the bill printed? Agreed? Agreed. I have the honour to inform this House that when this House did attend His Excellency this day in the Senate chamber, His Excellency was pleased to make a speech to both Houses of Parliament, and to prevent mistakes, I have obtained a copy which is as follows. Shall I dispense? Mr. Harper, seconded by Mr. Van Loan, moves that the speech of His Excellency delivered this day from the throne to both Houses of Parliament be taken into consideration later this day. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed? Adopted.
Agreed.
Standing Order 28.2b, I have the honour to lay upon the table the House of Commons calendar for the year 2014. I have the honour to lay upon the table a certified copy of the report of the Federal Electoral Boundaries Commission for the Province of Ontario. Conformément au paragraphe.
Pursuant to Section 21.2 of the Electoral Boundaries Readjustment Act, the report was published and made public on Monday, September 30th, 2013, in a special edition of the Canada Gazette.
To the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. I have the honour to inform the House that Mr. Duncan, member for the Electoral District of Vancouver Island North, has been appointed member of the Board of Internal Economy in place of Mr. O'Connor, member for the Electoral District of Carleton, Mississippi Mills, for the purposes and under the provisions of Section 50 of the Parliament of Canada Act. Do I recognize him? Mr. Clement, seconded by Mr. Van Loan, moves that the business of supply be considered at the next sitting of the House. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed? Carried. The Honourable Government House Leader is rising.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, seconded by the Government Whip, that notwithstanding any standing order, that the adjournment today be at 8 p.m.
Do you ask consent to propose this motion? No? No, there's no consent. It is my duty to inform the House that a total of 5 days will be allotted for the supply period ending December 10th, 2013. 22. I am now prepared to propose for the ratification of the House a candidate for the position of Deputy Chair of Committees of the Whole. Conformément à l'article 8 du règlement, je propose...
Pursuant to Standing Order 8, I propose Mr. Barry DeVolen for the position of Deputy Chair of Committees of the Whole.
Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed. Agreed, and so ordered. Je suis maintenant prêt à proposer...
I am now prepared for the ratification of the House to propose a candidate for the position of Assistant Deputy Chair of Committees of the Whole.
Stanton for the position of Assistant Deputy Chair of Committees of the Whole. The motion is deemed moved and seconded. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed? Carried? Agreed, and so ordered. The Honourable Government House Leader is rising.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I propose that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, when Government Motion Number 1 is called, no member shall speak for more than 10 minutes, with no question and comment period, provided that members may divide their time with another member. The Speaker shall not receive any amendments, and when no member rises to speak or after 40 minutes of debate, whichever is earlier, the motion shall be deemed adopted on division.
On division.
Does the Honourable Government House Leader have the unanimous consent of the House to propose this motion? No? There's no consent. Mr. Duncan. The Honourable Chief Government Whip is rising.
Mr. Speaker, je propose que la liste.
I move that the following changes be made to the membership of the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs.
Scott Armstrong, Ted Opitz for Parham Gill, Blake Richards for Costas Menegakis, and Kevin Lamoureux for Dominic LeBlanc.
I like it. I like it.
Mr. Duncan, seconded by Mr. Van Loan, moves that the membership of the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs be amended as follows. Brad Butt for Scott Armstrong, Ted Opitz for Parham Gill, Blake Richards for Costas Menegakis, and Kevin Lamoureux for Dominic LeBlanc. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt that motion? Agreed? Agreed and so ordered. It being 6:30, this House stands adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m. pursuant to Standing Order 24-1.
Thank you.